The morning sun rose slowly over the small village, painting the dusty road with a faint golden light. The air was cool and the sound of roosters echoed from faraway houses. On that quiet road walked a woman named Mira, carrying a small cloth bundle in her hands. Her steps were slow, but there was strength in her eyes. She was a widow, left alone in a world that had not been kind to her. Mira's husband had passed away 2 years ago after a long illness. They had once lived in a small hut near the river, where her husband worked as a fisherman. Life was simple then, sometimes hard but filled with laughter and love. When he died, everything changed. The little savings they had soon disappeared, used for his medicines and funeral. Mira found herself alone, with no land, no animals, and no one to depend on. The villagers were kind at first, offering her food and comfort. But pity fades fast when people have their own mouths to feed. Slowly, she became invisible to them. She would sit outside her hut at night watching the stars and wondering how life could turn so cold so quickly. But Mira was not someone who gave up easily. She had seen storms before. She knew that tears could not fill an empty stomach. So one morning she tied her few clothes in a small cloth bundle, covered her head with her faded scarf, and decided to walk to the nearby town. She had heard there were farms and workshops there, places where people might need a worker. The road to the town was long and uneven. Sometimes she walked through green fields. Sometimes she crossed dry patches of land where the wind carried dust. Her feet hurt, but she did not stop. With every step, she whispered a prayer that somewhere ahead, someone would give her a chance. By afternoon, she reached the edge of the town. It was bigger than she had imagined. Busy streets, shops lined up on both sides, and people talking loudly. For a moment, she felt lost. Her clothes were old, her hands rough from work and her eyes tired. She saw women her age walking with baskets of vegetables, men carrying wood, and children running around. Life moved fast here, and she was just a stranger with nothing but hope. Mira began asking around. She stopped at a bakery and asked if they needed help. The baker looked at her kindly but shook his head. "We already have someone," he said. She thanked him and moved on. At a tailor's shop, she offered to clean the floor and help with sewing. But again, no luck. Hours passed and the sky began to change its color to a pale orange. Her stomach growled. She hadn't eaten since morning. She sat by the roadside, opened her bundle, and took out a piece of dry bread she had saved from the night before. As she ate quietly, she watched people passing by, busy, laughing, talking, and wondered if anyone noticed her at all. Just then, a cart stopped nearby. It belonged to an old man named Ravi, who owned a small estate on the outskirts of town. He had come to the market to sell some fruits. Mira saw him speaking kindly to a few workers who helped load baskets onto his cart. Something about his calm manner gave her a little courage. When he was about to leave, she walked up to him. "Sir," she said softly, "I'm looking for work. I can cook, clean, and take care of the house. Do you know if anyone needs a worker?" Ravi looked at her with surprise. He was not used to strangers asking him things so directly. But her tone was humble and her eyes honest. "Where are you from?" he asked. "From the river village," she replied. "My husband has passed. I have no one left. I just need work." "Any work?" Ravi was silent for a moment. Then he said, "I don't have a big house, but there is always work in the garden and the kitchen. If you are not afraid of hard work, you can come with me. I will give you food and a place to rest." Mira's eyes filled with tears. She quickly wiped them away and nodded. "Thank you, sir. I will work hard, I promise." That evening, she sat on the cart beside Ravi as they rode out of town. The wind was cool and she felt the weight of her worries lift just a little. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to smile. When they reached the estate, it was almost dark. The place was simple. A small house surrounded by fruit trees and a vegetable garden. There was a shed for tools, a small water well, and a wooden bench under a big banyan tree. It looked peaceful, like a place where life could begin again. Ravi's wife, Kamla, came out to greet them. She was older than Mira, but had a warm, motherly face. When she saw Mira, she smiled gently. "Another pair of hands will be good," she said. "We are not rich, but we eat together and treat everyone like family." That night, Mira was given a small room near the kitchen. She sat on the simple bed, touched the clean blanket, and sighed deeply. She could not remember when she last had a roof over her head that didn't leak, or a place that felt safe. In the following days, she began to work with quiet determination. Every morning she woke before sunrise, swept the yard, lit the stove, and helped Kamla prepare breakfast. She watered the plants and washed the clothes in the well. Though her hands hurt and her back ached, she did not complain. Ravi noticed her discipline and kindness. She never wasted food, never spoke ill of anyone, and treated everything with respect, and even the animals. Slowly, she became a part of the household. Kamla began to talk to her more, asking about her life, her village, and her dreams. Mira always smiled and said, "I only want peace now." In the evenings, when her work was done, she would sit under the banyan tree. The air would be cool, filled with the sound of crickets. She often looked up at the stars and whispered prayers of thanks. For the first time since her husband's death, her heart began to feel light. One day, Ravi noticed that she was staring at a broken fence near the garden. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "It can be fixed," she said softly. "If the goats get in, they'll eat your crops." "I can mend it," he smiled. "You know about such things?" "My husband taught me," she replied. He always said a good home is one where hands never rest. That simple answer made Ravi respect her even more. He realized that behind her quiet nature was great strength, the kind that comes from years of hardship and faith. As weeks passed, Mira's life slowly changed. The neighbors began to know her. Some came to buy vegetables from the garden and often praised her for her hard work. Children from nearby houses would come to play near her, and she would tell them small stories from her village. Her laughter began to return, soft at first but growing brighter each day. But deep inside, Mira still carried a small fear that happiness never lasted long in her life. She had learned that everything could be taken away in an instant, yet for now she chose to believe in the kindness she had found. When the monsoon came, the rain washed the dust from the trees and filled the garden with life. Mira stood under the porch one morning, watching the rain pour down, and felt a tear roll down her cheek, not of sadness, but of gratitude. She whispered, "Maybe this is what peace feels like," and at that moment even the sky seemed to smile upon her. Days turned into weeks, and weeks slowly turned into months. Mira had now become a part of Ravi and Kamla's household, almost like family. Everyone in the nearby area began to recognize her. When people passed by the small estate, they would often see her working in the garden, planting vegetables, or helping Kamla prepare food for the market. She always wore her simple cotton sari, her head covered modestly, her hands busy, and her heart peaceful. Her mornings began before dawn. She would light the lamp in front of the small shrine, whisper a prayer, and then start her work. The smell of burning wood and boiling tea filled the air as the sun slowly rose. Ravi often sat outside reading the newspaper, while Kamla sorted the fruits to be sent to town. It had become a gentle rhythm, the kind that brought comfort to hearts that had once known too much sorrow. Mira's presence brought warmth to the house. She never demanded anything for herself. When Kamla tried to give her new clothes, she would smile shyly and say, "This old one is still strong. Let me wear it a little longer." When Ravi offered to increase her wages, she refused. "I already get food, a roof, and kindness," she said. "What more do I need?" But even though Mira had found a peaceful life, she often thought about her old village. She wondered if anyone still remembered her. Sometimes she dreamed of her late husband, of his laughter, his strong hands, his voice calling her name. She would wake up before dawn, her eyes wet. But she always smiled and whispered, "You would be happy to see me now." One morning, while Mira was collecting vegetables in the garden, she noticed a little boy standing near the fence. He looked about 7 years old, thin, barefoot, and holding a small empty basket. His clothes were torn and his face looked pale. Mira walked toward him gently. "Why are you standing here, child?" she asked softly. The boy looked up, frightened. "I was hungry," he said quietly. "I came to see if someone would give me food." Mira's heart melted. She called him inside and gave him a bowl of rice and lentils. The boy ate quickly as if he hadn't eaten in days. Kamla came out and asked who he was, and Mira explained. Kamla, being kind herself, gave the boy a banana and said, "If you're hungry, come here any time. No child should starve." The boy smiled for the first time. He told them his name was Rohan, and he lived with his sick mother in a small hut near the railway line. After that day, he started visiting often. Sometimes he helped Mira carry water or pluck fruits. Mira treated him like her own child, teaching him small lessons about honesty and work. One evening, when Rohan came again, Ravi asked him gently, "Do you go to school?" Rohan shook his head. We cannot afford it, he said. I help my mother instead. Ravi looked thoughtful. He turned to Mira and Kamla and said, We can help him. The school in town is not far and I know the teacher there. Mira's eyes brightened. Yes, she said softly. Every child should study. The next week they arranged everything. Rohan was enrolled in school, and Mira promised to help him with his homework in the evenings. From that day, the little boy became part of their small world, bringing laughter and new energy to the quiet home. Mira often sat under the banyan tree, helping Rohan read small storybooks. Sometimes he stumbled over words and she would laugh gently and correct him. For her, those evenings were the happiest hours of the day. It reminded her of the child she never had, the motherhood she had once prayed for but never received. One day as they sat together, Rohan asked, Auntie, why do you always smile even when you work so hard? Mira looked at him for a moment and then said, Because when you do your work with a clean heart, it brings peace inside you. Hard work never hurts when your heart is grateful. Her words stayed with the boy for a long time. He often repeated them to his mother, who said that God must have sent Mira into their lives. As time passed, Mira became known in the nearby market for her honesty. When Ravi sent her to sell vegetables, people trusted her completely. She never cheated, never argued, and always spoke kindly. That widow is a blessing to that house, the neighbors would whisper. She has turned that small farm into a garden of peace. But not everyone was kind. There were always a few who liked to gossip. Some people wondered why Ravi and Kamla treated her like family. She's just a servant, they would say. Why give her so much respect? But Ravi and Kamla ignored them. They knew Mira's value, not as a worker, but as a person whose loyalty and heart had made their home brighter. One evening, Ravi fell ill with a fever. Kamla was worried, as his health had always been weak. Mira stayed by his side all night, placing a cool cloth on his forehead and praying silently. When the doctor came the next morning, he said it was only fatigue and that rest would heal him. When Ravi opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was Mira sitting beside him, half asleep on the chair. You didn't rest? He asked weakly. She shook her head. Family doesn't sleep when someone is unwell, she said simply. That sentence touched his heart deeply. From that day onward, he treated her like a younger sister rather than a servant. He told Kamla one night, She came here with nothing, but she has given us everything, peace, care, and warmth. Life moved on quietly. The garden flourished, Rohan did well in school, and the house felt full of life again. Sometimes in the evenings, the three adults sat outside, sipping tea and talking about small joys, the coming harvest, the weather, or the silly things Rohan said. But one morning, news came from the town that a big factory was opening nearby. It promised better wages and steady work. Many villagers started leaving their farms to join. A few came to the estate and told Mira she should go too. You'll earn more money there, one woman said. Why stay here and work so hard? Mira listened quietly but only smiled. Money cannot buy peace, she replied. Here I have a family, not just work. Those words showed how much she had changed. Once she had walked the road alone, searching for a place to belong. Now she had found one. Ravi and Kamla grew older, and they often said to each other, When we are gone, this house will be hers. But they didn't tell Mira yet. They knew she would refuse out of humility. One day, Rohan brought home his first school certificate. He had stood first in his class. He ran to Mira, waving the paper proudly. I did it, Auntie, he shouted, Mira's eyes filled with tears. She hugged him tightly and said, I'm proud of you, Rohan. Keep learning. One day you'll do great things. That night, when she sat under the banyan tree alone, she thought about how much her life had changed. She had come seeking work, broken and hopeless, but she had found love, respect, and a reason to live again. The wind blew softly through the trees, and she whispered, Thank you, God, for guiding my steps that day. In the distance, she could hear Kamla calling her for dinner. The warm light of the house glowed gently through the windows, and Mira smiled as she walked toward it. The sound of laughter, the smell of food, and the sense of belonging filled her heart with peace. She had once thought her life had ended the day her husband died. But now she knew. Sometimes life begins again when we least expect it. The seasons changed once again. The air grew warmer, the trees greener, and the small estate buzzed with life. Mira had now been living there for almost 2 years. Every corner of the house carried her touch. The garden bloomed with flowers, the kitchen smelled of freshly baked bread, and the laughter of young Rohan echoed through the walls like music. One early morning, as the first rays of sunlight kissed the earth, Mira walked toward the well with her water pots. Birds sang in the trees and the gentle wind brushed against her face. She looked around the garden and smiled with pride. The vegetables were healthy, the fruits hung heavy on the branches, and even the flowers seemed to greet her as she passed by. It felt like the land itself had begun to love her back. Inside the house, Kamla was coughing lightly. Her health had been weakening over the months. Though she never complained, Mira noticed the tiredness in her eyes. She began taking more of the household work on herself, cooking, cleaning, tending to the animals, so Kamla could rest more. One afternoon, as Mira prepared soup for Kamla, Ravi sat nearby reading the newspaper. "Mira," he said, looking over his glasses, "the doctor says Kamla needs proper rest and healthy food. We will manage, but I worry about her." Mira placed the bowl on the table gently. "Don't worry, Baba," she said kindly. She had started calling him Baba, father, out of love and respect. "I will take care of her like my own mother." And she did. Mira made herbal teas, prepared soft meals, and helped Kamla walk in the garden every evening. The two women would sit under the banyan tree, talking about life, memories, and small joys. Kamla often held Mira's hand and said, "When you came here that day, I thought you were just another worker. But now I see you were sent to us by God." Mira would smile shyly, not knowing how to answer. She only knew that kindness given had a way of returning tenfold. Meanwhile, Rohan had grown taller and more confident. He loved school, and he loved Mira even more. Whenever he came home with his report card, he would run to her first. "Auntie, look, I got the highest marks again," he would say proudly. "That's my smart boy," she'd reply, patting his head. "Study hard, and one day you'll make everyone proud." Rohan had become like a son to her, something she had never experienced before. He brought color and laughter into her life. Whenever he laughed, she forgot all her past pain. But life, as always, has a way of testing even the strongest hearts. One afternoon, while Mira was washing clothes near the well, a messenger came from the town. He brought a letter for Ravi. The old man opened it and frowned deeply. Kamla, worried, asked what it said. Ravi sighed. "It's from my cousin," he explained. "He is asking me to sell a part of our land. The new factory wants to buy this area. They are offering a good price." Kamla looked shocked. "But this land feeds us and the workers. How can you sell it?" Ravi shook his head. "I don't want to, but others are selling. And if we don't, we may lose access to the main road. The money could help with your treatment too." Mira overheard the conversation quietly. Her heart tightened. This land wasn't just a piece of soil to her. It was her new beginning, her peace, her home. The thought of losing it frightened her. That evening, she sat alone under the banyan tree thinking. The sun dipped behind the trees, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. She remembered her first day here, tired, hungry, and lost, and how this place had given her back her dignity. She couldn't bear to see it vanish. The next morning, Mira gathered her courage and spoke to Ravi. "Baba," she said gently, "I know you worry about money and Amma's health, but please don't sell the land. This garden is not just crops, it is life. It gives peace to everyone here." Ravi looked at her, surprised by her boldness. "You speak with wisdom, Mira. But what choice do we have? Kamla needs medicine, and I am not strong enough to work like before." "Then let me take care of it," Mira said. "We can sell more vegetables and fruits in the market. I can make pickles and jams. People like natural food. I will work harder. Please give me a few months to prove that we can manage without selling." Ravi hesitated but saw the determination in her eyes. Finally, he nodded. "All right. We will wait. But don't tire yourself too much." From that day, Mira began working with double energy. She started collecting glass jars, sugar, and spices. She made homemade pickles, fruit jams, and dried herbs. Kamla helped her with recipes, and Rohan helped with labels. Every Sunday, they carried their products to the town market. At first, people were unsure, but soon the customers loved the pure, homemade taste. Within 2 months, they were earning more than before. The news spread fast. "The widow's jams and pickles are the best." People said. Mira's small business became popular, and her humble confidence grew. Ravi was amazed. One evening, he said proudly, "You were right, Mira. You saved this land. You have done what even I could not. Mira smiled softly. We all did it together. This is our home and I will protect it as long as I can. But fate had another test waiting. One night, Kamla's health suddenly worsened. She had trouble breathing and Ravi rushed to call the doctor. Mira stayed beside her, holding her hand and whispering prayers. The doctor arrived quickly and gave her medicine, but said gently, "She needs rest and love. Keep her comfortable." For days, Mira barely slept. She made sure Kamla ate on time, took her medicine, and never felt alone. One evening, Kamla looked at her with tired eyes and said, "Promise me something, Mira." "Anything, Amma," Mira whispered. "When we are gone," Kamla said slowly, "don't leave this place. You belong here. Take care of it and of Rohan. Promise me that." Tears filled Mira's eyes. She held Kamla's hand tightly. "I promise, Amma. This will always be your home." Kamla smiled faintly and closed her eyes to rest. Days passed. Slowly, her health stabilized. The medicines began to work and she grew stronger. Mira thanked God every morning for that small mercy. Meanwhile, the business continued to grow. Mira started teaching other women from nearby villages how to make pickles and jams. She told them, "When women support each other, no one stays hungry." Her words inspired many. Soon, several women began earning for their families, and they all looked up to Mira as a leader, humble, kind, and strong. Rohan often told her, "Auntie, you are famous now. Everyone knows you." She laughed gently and said, "I don't need fame, child. I only need peace." One day, the local newspaper came to interview her. The reporter asked, "You came here with nothing. Now you've built something special. What is your secret?" Mira thought for a moment and said, "Kindness, honesty, and faith. These are the three things that never fail. Work done with love never goes wasted." Her simple words touched everyone who read them. People started visiting their small estate just to meet her and taste her handmade products. The garden that once struggled to survive now bloomed brighter than ever. But more than success, what made Mira happiest was seeing others smile. She often said, "True success is when you can share your blessings with others." That night, as she stood under the moonlit sky, the gentle wind carrying the sweet smell of ripe fruits, she closed her eyes and smiled. She thought of her husband, her lost past, and how far she had come. She whispered softly, "I came here seeking work, but I found something greater. I found a family, a home, and respect." The stars above seemed to twinkle brighter, as if the heavens themselves were proud of her journey. And so life continued, peaceful, meaningful, and full of quiet strength. A story of a woman who had once lost everything but found hope again in the most unexpected place. The seasons shifted once again. The mornings grew crisp and the leaves in the garden turned a brighter green. Mira had now settled fully into life at the estate. Her days were busy, yet each one brought a quiet joy she had never imagined possible. The garden flourished under her care. The pickles and jams became popular in town, and even Rohan's school performance had reached new heights. But Mira remained humble, always putting the needs of others before her own. One morning she awoke to a soft drizzle outside. The rain made the air smell fresh and the small estate felt alive in a gentle, quiet way. She walked to the garden, feeling the wet soil beneath her feet, and checked the vegetables. The rain had made the crops stronger, and the flowers shone brightly with drops of water glistening on their petals. She smiled to herself. Life was giving her small rewards every day, and she cherished them all. Inside the house, Kamla had grown stronger but still needed Mira's attention. The two women worked together seamlessly, one chopping vegetables while the other stirred pots of stew. Their hands moved in harmony, and their conversations flowed easily. Mira had learned many recipes from Kamla, and now she could cook almost everything perfectly. But more importantly, she had learned patience, kindness, and the quiet art of nurturing. Ravi often watched them from the porch, his eyes filled with admiration. He would shake his head with a soft chuckle and say, "I have seen many workers, but Mira is different. She does not work for money or recognition. She works with her heart." Mira's days were not just about work. She made time for Rohan every evening, helping him with homework and encouraging his curiosity. Sometimes they would sit by the small pond near the garden and watch the fish swim. Rohan would ask endless questions about plants, animals, and the world beyond their village. Mira would answer patiently, sharing stories from her own childhood and her late husband's teachings. These moments were her favorite, small slices of peace that reminded her life could be beautiful again. One day, while Mira was preparing fruits for the market, a young woman came to the estate. She looked nervous but determined. Mira welcomed her with a smile. "Come in, how can I help you?" The woman introduced herself as Leela. She explained that she wanted to learn how to make jams and pickles so she could help her family earn a living. Mira listened carefully and said, "Of course, I will teach you everything I know. But remember, work done with honesty and love is the key." For the next few weeks, Mira taught Leela step by step how to clean the fruits, prepare spices, cook the jams, and package them neatly. Leela was a quick learner, and soon she was producing jars almost as good as Mira's. Mira felt a quiet pride in her heart. Helping others succeed had become a part of her own happiness. Meanwhile, news of Mira's success had spread to nearby villages. People came to the estate not only to buy her products but also to seek her advice. Some wanted help in starting small businesses. Others sought guidance on taking care of their families. Mira listened to them all, offering advice with patience and warmth. She had become more than just a widow seeking work. She had become a symbol of hope and perseverance. One afternoon, Ravi called Mira aside. "Mira," he said, "the town council wants to meet you. They have heard about your work and your honesty. They want to involve you in a women's cooperative project. You can help train many more women and create steady income for the community." Mira was surprised. She had never imagined herself in such a role. I don't know if I am ready," she said softly. Ravi smiled. "You are ready. You have worked hard, helped others, and built respect. It is time the world recognizes it too." After thinking for a few days, Mira agreed. She started visiting nearby villages, teaching women how to make jams, pickles, and other small products that could earn them money. She encouraged them to work together, share resources, and support each other. Slowly, a small network began to form, and Mira's influence grew quietly but steadily. Back at the estate, Rohan had started showing an interest in gardening. He would help Mira water the plants, check for pests, and even plant new saplings. Mira encouraged him, saying, "Take care of the land and it will take care of you. Everything you nurture will grow stronger with love." One evening, while Mira and Rohan were watering the garden, Ravi and Kamla joined them under the banyan tree. The four of them sat quietly, enjoying the cool evening air. The sky was painted in shades of pink and orange, and the birds returned to their nests. It was a perfect moment of calm, a simple, ordinary moment that felt extraordinary in its peace. Kamla spoke softly. "Mira, you have brought life to this house. You are no longer a guest or a worker. You are part of our family." Mira's eyes filled with tears, but she smiled gently. "I only wanted a chance to live honestly and work hard. I never expected so much kindness in return." Ravi nodded. "Life has a way of rewarding those who persevere. You came here with nothing and now you have built so much, not just for yourself but for all of us." The next few months brought new challenges, though. One morning, the local market faced a shortage of fruits because of unexpected rain that damaged the orchards. Many of Mira's customers could not get fresh supplies. Mira felt worried, not for herself, but for the women who depended on her training for their income. She quickly organized a plan. She contacted nearby villages, collected fruits, and even used preserved stock from the estate. Working day and night, she ensured that no one went without supplies. Her efforts kept the market running, and the people appreciated her hard work. The experience taught Mira a valuable lesson. Challenges are part of life, but determination and creativity can overcome almost anything. Despite the workload, Mira never neglected the simple joys of life. She would often take Rohan on small walks through the forest nearby, teaching him about different plants, animals, and the importance of respecting nature. These walks became their cherished routine, a space where they laughed, shared stories, and strengthened their bond. One evening, after returning from the market, Mira sat by the pond, watching the reflection of the moon on the water. She thought of the long journey she had taken, from a lonely widow searching for work to a respected member of a caring family, and a mentor to many women. Her heart swelled with gratitude. She whispered softly, "I came here seeking work, but life gave me a home, a family, and a purpose. Ravi and Kamla often watched her quietly during such moments. They realized that Mira's presence had transformed not just the estate, but the lives of everyone around her. Her strength, humility, and kindness had created an environment where everyone could thrive, and so life continued. The estate remained a place of peace and productivity. Rohan grew smarter and more confident each day. The women in the cooperative started earning steady income and spreading kindness and knowledge in their villages. Mira had become a guiding light, quiet, humble, yet incredibly powerful in her impact. Even in the evenings when she sat under the banyan tree alone, Mira felt content. The past hardships that had once weighed on her heart now seemed distant. She had learned that true strength comes not from wealth, status, or fame, but from perseverance, compassion, and the courage to keep moving forward. Mira knew life would bring more challenges, it always did, but she felt ready. With Ravi, Kamla, and Rohan by her side, and with the respect of her community, she had found the kind of life she had once only dreamed of. A life full of meaning, love, and hope. And as the stars shone brightly above, Mira closed her eyes and whispered a simple prayer of gratitude for the journey, for the people she loved, and for the chance to live a life of purpose and kindness. The estate had changed in countless ways since Mira first arrived. The garden was lush and vibrant, full of fruits, vegetables, and colorful flowers. The small kitchen always smelled of fresh bread, simmering stews, and sweet jams. And everywhere there was a sense of life and joy, a far cry from the silence and loneliness Mira had known just a few years ago. Mira had become the heart of this home. She woke each morning before the sun, tending to the garden, preparing meals, and checking on Rohan. But even amidst her busy schedule, she made time for the women in the cooperative, guiding them patiently, teaching them to work with care, honesty, and love. Her influence had grown beyond the estate. People from nearby villages sought her advice, admired her courage, and wanted to learn from her example. Rohan had grown taller, more confident and curious than ever. He no longer needed Mira's constant guidance, yet he still ran to her each day to share small victories from school or the garden. "Look, Auntie," he would exclaim, holding up a new plant he had grown. Mira would smile, her eyes shining with pride. She often thought to herself that life had given her a chance to be a mother in a way she had never imagined, not through her own children, but through love, guidance, and care for those who needed her. One evening, as Mira sat under the banyan tree, she reflected on the journey that had brought her here. She had come to the town as a poor widow, carrying only a small cloth bundle and a heart full of hope. She had been uncertain, fearful, and weary, but life had rewarded her perseverance, her kindness, and her unwavering honesty. Now she had a home, a family, and a purpose. The next day, a visitor came to the estate. It was a woman from the town council who had heard about Mira's work. She brought letters of appreciation and an invitation to attend a community meeting. The council wanted Mira to speak to women from all nearby villages about her journey and share her experience in building the cooperative. Mira was hesitant at first. She had never been one to speak in front of crowds. But Ravi encouraged her gently, saying, "You have inspired so many already. This is just a chance to help more people." Kamla added, "Your story can change lives, Mira. Don't be afraid to share it." So Mira agreed. On the day of the meeting, she dressed simply but neatly, her eyes reflecting quiet determination. When she stood before the crowd, she felt a flutter of nervousness. But as she looked into the faces of women who were eager to learn and improve their lives, her nerves slowly faded. She began to speak softly, sharing her story, the loss of her husband, the struggles she faced alone, the search for work, and how she found kindness and respect in Ravi and Kamla's household. She spoke about the lessons she had learned, the importance of hard work, honesty, patience, and above all, faith in oneself. As Mira spoke, the women listened intently. Some had tears in their eyes, others smiled with hope. By the end of her speech, there was a sense of collective inspiration. The women applauded her warmly, expressing their gratitude and admiration. Mira felt a quiet joy swell in her heart. She realized that her journey, filled with hardships, patience, and perseverance, could now inspire others to rise above their difficulties. Back at the estate, life continued to flourish. Mira's cooperative had grown into a network of more than 20 women from nearby villages. Each woman had begun earning a steady income, supporting her family and sharing the knowledge with others. Mira's vision had expanded beyond survival. She was now helping her community thrive. Rohan's education progressed steadily. He had become an intelligent, curious, and responsible young boy. He often told Mira, "Auntie, I want to help you teach other children too. I want everyone to have a chance like I did." Mira smiled, seeing in him the reflection of hope and future possibilities. She knew that her influence had planted seeds that would continue growing long after she was gone. One afternoon, Mira went to check the garden and noticed a small group of children playing near the fence. They laughed and ran around freely, their faces bright with innocence. Mira remembered her own childhood and her lost years of hardship. She realized that through her work, she had not only found her own peace but also helped create a place where others could feel safe, cared for, and loved. The seasons continued their gentle cycle. The monsoons brought life to the soil. The winters made the mornings crisp and invigorating, and the summers were warm but lively. Every day Mira woke with purpose. Every day she worked with gratitude. And every day she saw the impact of her labor. A flourishing garden, happy children, inspired women, and a family who loved her deeply. One quiet evening, Kamla and Mira sat on the porch sipping warm tea. Kamla looked at Mira and said, "You have changed this house, Mira. But more than that, you have changed me. I have learned patience, courage, and hope from you." Mira shook her head, smiling gently. "No, Amma. I only followed the path life gave me. I was just doing what I thought was right." Ravi joined them, looking at Mira with admiration. "You have turned this small estate into a place of life, learning, and hope. Your strength and kindness have touched everyone here. I am proud to call you family." Mira felt a warmth in her heart that she had never felt before. For the first time, she truly understood the meaning of belonging, not just having a roof over her head, but being part of a community that valued, respected, and loved her. Weeks later, Mira received letters and messages from women across the region. They thanked her for teaching them, for giving them hope, and for showing that even in the darkest times one could find a way to rise again. Mira kept these letters in a small box near her bed. She would sometimes read them aloud to Rohan, telling him, "See, child, even small acts of kindness can ripple across the world." The estate continued to thrive. Mira's jams and pickles were sold in town. The garden grew more bountiful each year, and Rohan continued to excel in school. But the true reward for Mira was not money or recognition. It was the joy she saw in others, the gratitude in their eyes, and the knowledge that she had helped create a life better than her own. One afternoon, as Mira sat beneath the banyan tree, she thought about her past. She remembered the long road from her village, the hunger, the loneliness, and the fear she had carried in her heart. She realized that each step had led her to this moment, a life full of love, respect, and purpose. She whispered a quiet prayer of thanks, her heart overflowing with gratitude. Rohan ran to her, holding a small sapling. "Auntie, I planted this for you," he said excitedly. Mira took the little plant, smiling. "Thank you, child. Let's plant it together. It will grow strong, just like our hopes." As they planted the sapling together, Mira felt a sense of completion, not the end of a journey, but the continuation of one filled with meaning. She had begun her life in this town with nothing but hope. Now she had built a home, a family, a community, and a legacy. Years later, Mira's name would be remembered not just in the estate, but across the villages. Women she had trained would continue teaching others. Children like Rohan would carry forward the values of honesty, hard work, and compassion. And all of it had started with a single step. A poor widow coming to a town seeking work, brave enough to believe in life again. Mira often sat quietly in the evenings, watching the sun set over the lush garden. She would think about her journey, smile softly, and whisper, "I came seeking work, but I found so much more: love, respect, purpose, and a family. This is my true reward." And under the stars, with the wind brushing gently through the trees, Mira knew one thing clearly. Life had given her a second chance, and she had lived it fully, with grace, courage, and an open heart. Her journey was a testament to hope, kindness, and perseverance, and a reminder that even in the darkest times, life has a way of giving back to those who never give up, who work honestly, and who carry love in their hearts.